Counter-Strike is one of those games that feels like it has always existed. Even if you never played it, you've probably heard the name, seen the maps, or recognized the sound of a bomb being planted somewhere in the distance. But the story of Counter-Strike isn't just about a game. It's about one of the most stubborn communities in gaming history. A community that refused to let their game die no matter how many times it changed, evolved, or nearly fell apart. To understand how Counter-Strike became one of the most important competitive games ever made, you have to go back to the late 90s, before esports arenas and million-dollar prize pools, when everything started with a college student in Canada known online as Gooseman. Gooseman was just a student modding games in his spare time when he met Jess Cliff, and together, they came up with the idea for a mod built on Half-Life. The concept was simple but brilliant: two teams, terrorists and counter-terrorists, facing off in tactical combat. Gooseman spent around 20 hours a week working on the mod while finishing his studies, and in 1999 they released what would become Counter-Strike Beta 1. At that point, the game only had hostage rescue missions, which sounds almost unbelievable today considering how iconic bomb defusal would later become. But even with just that one mode, players couldn't get enough. The gameplay was tense, skill-based, and unlike anything else at the time. When bomb defusal was introduced in later betas, it transformed the experience and helped turn Counter-Strike into something truly special. Valve quickly noticed that this mod was becoming incredibly popular and began supporting its development. Eventually they purchased the rights to Counter-Strike and hired Gooseman and Jess Cliff. On November 9, 2000, Counter-Strike 1 officially released on Windows, and from that moment on, the game started growing at a pace that few people could have predicted. In 2000, Counter-Strike tournaments were small side events with modest prize pools, but by 2001 the prize money had exploded, and Counter-Strike became the main attraction at major competitive events. It was already clear that Counter-Strike wasn't just another shooter, it was becoming one of the foundations of competitive gaming. As the early 2000s progressed, Counter-Strike continued evolving through updates and new versions, but one of the biggest turning points came in 2003 with the release of Steam. Before Steam existed, every update had to be downloaded manually from websites, which could take hours due to slow internet speeds and overloaded servers. Steam changed all of that by allowing updates to be delivered automatically. This made it easier than ever for Valve to maintain the game and for players to stay on the same version. Around this time, Counter-Strike 1.6 became the standard version, and the term CS 1.6 became part of gaming vocabulary. For many players, 1.6 was Counter-Strike in its purest form, simple, competitive, and endlessly replayable. But Valve wasn't content with leaving things alone. In 2004, they released Counter-Strike Condition Zero, an attempt to bring a single-player experience to Counter-Strike. The idea sounded interesting, but in practice it felt like an alternate version of 1.6, with slightly improved graphics and a campaign that didn't really capture what made Counter-Strike special. The game was poorly received and quickly faded into the background, unfortunately. For fans of 1.6, Condition Zero wasn't the only major change coming that year, because Valve also released Counter-Strike Source. Source introduced significantly improved graphics, physics, and new features like ragdoll animations and interactive objects. Players could even import images directly into the game, which went about as well as you might expect. On paper, Source looked like a major upgrade, but competitively, it was a different story. Many players felt that the movement, shooting mechanics, and overall feel weren't as precise as 1.6. On top of that, not everyone had a computer powerful enough to run Source properly, especially players in less wealthy regions. This created one of the biggest divides in gaming history, the split between 1.6 and Source. For nearly 7 years, Counter-Strike players were divided into two camps. Some players swore by 1.6, insisting that it had the superior mechanics and competitive integrity. Others embraced Source and its improved visuals and physics. Arguments between players became legendary, and even today you can still find people ready to debate which version was better. The divide wasn't just cultural, it showed up in competitive play as well. Tournament prize pools for 1.6 were often far larger than those for Source, and the most successful teams tended to come from the 1.6 scene. In 2005 alone, 1.6 tournaments had over $1 million in prize money, while Source events lagged far behind. Valve didn't always help matters. At one point they introduced a system called dynamic weapon pricing in Source. where the cost of weapons would change every week depending on how often they were used. This meant a weapon like the Desert Eagle could suddenly cost thousands more than usual, while less popular weapons became incredibly cheap. Players hated the system, and it was eventually removed, but it reinforced the idea that Valve didn't fully understand what competitive players wanted. Despite all of this, both versions of Counter-Strike continued to thrive competitively. Legendary players emerged from around the world, and European teams in particular dominated the scene. Counter-Strike became known as a game where skill truly mattered, and where the best players could achieve incredible consistency over long periods of time. By the late 2000s, Counter-Strike had firmly established itself as one of the biggest competitive games in the world. Then came 2011, a year that was huge for gaming as a whole. Massive titles were being released left and right, and the industry was growing rapidly. But while the rest of gaming was changing, Counter-Strike players largely stuck with what they knew. The divide between 1.6 and Source still existed, and neither side seemed willing to give up their version of the game. That was when Valve announced Counter-Strike: Global Offensive. When CS first appeared in beta form in 2012, the reaction wasn't exactly enthusiastic. Many players felt that it didn't match the feel of either 1.6 or Source. Some even argued that Source felt smoother than early CS builds. But over time, Valve improved the game, and as the official release approached, players began preparing for the transition. Tournament organizers started planning to switch to CS, and the competitive scenes for 1.6 and Source began to slow down. When CS finally released in August 2012, it marked the beginning of a new era. For the first time, players from both 1.6 and Source were competing in the same game. It was like a crossover event, with different playstyles and philosophies colliding. Former 1.6 players tended to play more tactically, relying on positioning and game sense, while former Source players often relied on mechanical skill and flashy plays. Watching these styles come together was fascinating, and it didn't take long for new teams to form and new legends to emerge. One of the earliest dominant teams in CS was Ninjas in Pajamas, a team made up of both 1.6 and Source players. They went on an incredible winning streak early in the game's life, winning tournament after tournament, and establishing themselves as one of the first great CS teams. Their success helped legitimize CS as a competitive game, and encouraged more players to make the switch. As CS grew, Valve began adding new features and updates. Weapon skins were introduced, creating a virtual economy that would eventually become one of the most recognizable aspects of the game. Operations added new content and challenges, and majors began offering increasingly large prize pools. The competitive scene grew rapidly, and new stars emerged. Over time, players like Simple and Zywoo rose to prominence, pushing the limits of what seemed possible in Counter-Strike. Teams from different regions had their moments of dominance, and unforgettable matches became part of the game's history. Brazilian teams achieved incredible success, Swedish teams built dynasties, and North American teams fought for their place in the spotlight. One of the most memorable moments in Counter-Strike history came in 2018, when Cloud made an incredible underdog run to win a major championship in front of a home crowd. It was a moment that showed just how unpredictable and exciting Counter-Strike could be. Even the strongest teams could be defeated, and even the biggest underdogs could rise to the top. As the years went on, Counter-Strike continued evolving, even during periods when updates were slow. Rival games came and went, and some players moved on to other titles, but Counter-Strike remained. The community stuck with the game through everything, proving time and time again that Counter-Strike wasn't going anywhere. When CS2 was finally announced, it felt less like a replacement, and more like the next step in a long journey. The game introduced new features and improvements while keeping the core gameplay intact. Just like previous versions, it sparked debates and discussions, but that was part of what made Counter-Strike what it is. From a college mod in 1999 to a global esport with millions of players, Counter-Strike has come a long way. It has survived technical limitations, community divisions, controversial updates, and changing trends in gaming. Through it all, the community remained loyal, continuing to play and compete year after year. If you've ever played Counter-Strike, then you've been part of that history. Maybe you started in 1.6, maybe you joined during Source, or maybe CS or CS2 was your first. No matter where you started, you've experienced a piece of one of the most important stories in gaming. And the craziest part is that the story still isn't over. Counter-Strike keeps evolving, new players keep joining, and new legends keep rising. Somewhere out there right now, someone is loading into a match for the first time, hearing the round start sound, and beginning their own journey in Counter-Strike. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and support us on Patreon to get access to exclusive premium gaming content. And don't forget to visit our website to stay up to date with everything happening in the world of gaming.